Hello, Something Guys and Gals. This is Something Guy 912, once again back to cover another map from Half-Life 2, following from D1 underscore Trainstation underscore 05, with the last map of the Red Letter Day chapter, as well as the last map to have the train station placeholder name to go with, D1 underscore Trainstation 06. You'll also notice that my voice has changed a little bit as I've gone out of my way to get a new mic, as the old one started to show its age considerably and was used mainly because I hadn't anything else. Hopefully this will improve the quality of not only these videos but bigger projects going forward, but regardless, if you've somehow stumbled into this series without watching the others, what I do here is scrutinize the design of these maps in relation to how realistic they would be, less so than in terms of gameplay, as that is only half my concern. Although sometimes certain NPC and enemy placements in relation to architecture will be brought up, and the Route Kanal chapters will have plenty of that once we get through this map. And with that, let's do just that. Alright, and now we have transitioned into D1 underscore Trainstation 06. Quick note about the transition between this map and the prior map. So we entered from this push door, and as we entered, there is this fence with another fence doorway, but again, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for this to be here, since usually push doors like this... Oh, it's gone. Well, push doors are usually open from one side. They can't usually be open from the other side unless you have a particular key, so it's a little bit weird, jarring this fence line to be here. Now, I have enabled no target for myself again, for obvious reasons, because I don't want to just be shot at, even though I'm basically invincible. Just don't want any distractions. And speaking of which, you know, I'm a professional, obviously, as you could tell. I forgot to turn off the music volume, you know, because I already have like background music that's basically just more ambience to go with the game that I'm playing. So I don't want extra audio noise. But yeah. Anyway, so we bank around this corner, and you know, he comes out. He's like, "Oh my God, the citadel is all crazy and shit." So, barring the fact that this obviously wasn't really well detailed, how did Barney even get up here? Because if we go through here, there's nothing. But even in the prior map, there wasn't like a doorway or a set of stairs that could have even implied how he got up here. And you can even see part of the prior map, like these two doors and the bricked out one from the prior map. So it's just interesting how they kind of just said, well, fuck it, just have him out here, right? We're gonna ignore his ass because I don't need weapons. I don't need a crowbar, I already have one. So we're gonna ignore him. Actually, I'll just do that just so he can stop saying, "Hey, Gordon." Moving on, there is another fence, and this one is even more inexplicable because it's just here. Like, assuming that maybe there was supposed to be like a fence doorway that goes between here and here. Like, beyond that, it doesn't really make sense. And as another point about fences and fence doorways, they're meant to block something. So if there was a fence doorway here, and this fence doorway here, what it would be blocking would essentially be this weird, I don't know, like courtyard, walkway, catwalk thing. I don't know. It's really hard to really understand what this even is supposed to be, since this kind of essentially leads into a substation. Anyhow, oh, you have some boards here. I'm just going to clip through that. We're moving on. Go down these stairs. We have this little gravel pathway. This gravel pathway that leads into this weird hallway that leads into what would be the drop-down point before, you know, the iBots as well as the civil protection essentially gun down on you. I don't know what the hell this little section even served, because obviously with the fence being bent this way as well as this part of the fence, obviously this was covering this section. But even with that, why was there a railway, or why was there a set of stairs and a gravel pathway to lead into this thing? Like, this is not going to help anyone, much less like a technician working on like the rails or the rail carts or whatever. So anyhow, jumping down, the CP show from here. That's weird. Not shooting at me. I don't know what they're shooting at. That's odd. Anyway, so this is a little bit embarrassing for me to say, and I don't know why I didn't notice this or realize this, but this rail system, this whole railway, is basically where we started the game back in D1 underscore train station 01. Like, if I clip through, like, this section here is the back of, I don't know, like the conductor's office or like some kind of service thing or whatnot. Obviously, the rest of this part of the train station is particularly in low detail because, for obvious reasons, you wouldn't be able to see most of it from this point because you're kind of like trying not to get shot by the civil protection. You're hiding behind these rail carts and whatnot. And then, you know, obviously, when we go through this doorway, there'll be a train that'll come in and, you know, chase after us, and then we have to outrun it and then, you know, flick it to the left. So obviously your eyes are not pinned to this area, which, you know, kind of goes to show, you know, that Valve did care about like being able to guide the player along in a way that felt natural and not necessarily forced and railroady, as ironic as it is talking about railway systems. Anyhow, this rail car, if you were to pay attention to it, the inside has nothing. There's no detail. It's just a window, some wipers, and that's it. Nobody's running this tram at all. I guess it's automated. Anyway, as with my prior scrutinizing of like these weird doohickeys and whatnot in regards to the rail system, it's kind of hard for me to really understand what these things are servicing because I'm not really familiar with rail systems. So it's kind of hard for me to know if there's anything wrong with this other than if it collides with something. But I know what is wrong is going back here, you can see some floating signal switches. And I'm absolutely certain that if I was to just play this game normally and you use the zoom function, you can see them from here if you like manage to have the time to run to this point. So I don't even think you can even buy the excuse that it's like, oh, they deliberately made it low poly because it's not really like within your immediate periphery. Like, these are things you can just see with the naked eye from here. And then as for the rail cars themselves, as far as I'm aware, they seem mostly coherent in terms of like what the interior of a rail car would be, especially with these kinds of post-Soviet-esque, like old-fashioned kind of rail cars. Of course, the other question comes as to why these particular rail cars are open, as opposed to some of them not being open, as well as what's inside of them. Like, this one has like a couch and a cabinet and some boxes and whatnot. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, like what is being put in here. It's just kind of just random clutter. And then, as well as this ladder opening up into this hatch, although I think it would probably stand to reason that certain train cars would have a hatch. This one is the only one that has a hatch. None of the other ones have some kind of hatch that is just closed, so again, very peculiar. And obviously this is just a way for us to jump from this rail car and then jump over here to essentially, you know, beat the fuzz. Now there's this, we have to do this because there's this fence lining, but this fence lining is arranged in such a way that is only so that the player can't skip this section and that they have to do the jumping section right here. That's the only reason this line of fences are here for. Like, the cohesiveness of it is just for the sake of gameplay and nothing else. And then before we go and try to essentially escape the CP from this point, there's a set of boards here, but before we go to that, something that also caught my eye was this little, like, I don't know, civilian crosswalk, catwalk thing. And it's interesting is that not only doesn't even finish from what its intended path would probably be, which would likely go up into this roadway up here, but it just doesn't go to anything. It's just a dead catwalk system, so it's just weird that this is here when, like, clearly if you were to pay any mind to it, you would just see that it would just taper off right here. Anyhow, going to here, we have some boards, and these boards will be important for the next map. More important for the next map, and not necessarily for this map. Although for this map, I do find it a little bit peculiar that there are boards guarding yet another fence wall, as opposed to just there being a fenced-off door. And then, we'll click through that, and well, there'll be more to say about this snaking, like, downward stair hallway after we escape the whole train yard section. But, beyond that, that's about as much as I can say about D1_Trainstation06. And that was that for this map. Once again, before I delve into another Half-Life 2 map, I will deviate a bit into another TF2 map, as I stated that I wanted to shake up the process as soon as I complete a chapter of the game's campaign. Tune in next time when I do so.